What's up, guys? Block FPL here, and today it is wildcard drafting time. I have officially activated my wildcard in an attempt to change this team before it gets too bad. I'm trying to be proactive and not reactive. I go into game week 27 at 35k overall after getting 60 points. I think I can effectively plan for the rest of the season at this point, so I don't think there's too much value in waiting to wildcard for my team personally. The major downside is that I don't have any double game week confirmation at this point. But I do have a good idea of which teams will blank in Game Week 31 and Game Week 34. At this point, Game Week 34 blanks are all about probability. Some teams have a high chance of blanking in 34 while others have a small chance. The only 4 teams guaranteed to play in Game Week 34 at this moment are Everton, Southampton, West Ham, and Burnley. Game Week 31 is similar with just probabilities set up. But we'll get to that in a bit. So here is my current wildcard draft. I'll explain why I chose these players and what changes I may make. But the basic team and strategy won't really change. Also, I haven't decided who to bench yet for this next game week. As you can see, it's a little bit of a tough decision because I'm going to have a good amount of depth in this team. This team is built with the idea of using the free hit chip in Game Week 31. So yeah, Game Week 31, I could sit here and try to calculate all this stuff, but it doesn't matter to me because I'm planning on it doesn't matter. I'm ignoring that because I know I'm going to free hit then. According to Ben Creelan's spreadsheet, link in the description, if I remember, the projected number of blank fixtures in Game Week 31 is 5.43. This is higher than Game Week 34's 3.2 projected blank fixtures. Less players to choose from that week who have games mean I probably won't be able to field a decent side without free hitting in Game Week 31, and it makes it easier to simply say I'm going to free hit in this week, so I only have to make sure I have a decent amount of players playing in Game Week 34 so that I can survive and thrive that week without the free hit. So now it's time to go over each one of these players and how they fit into this team. The goalkeepers, Leno and McCarthy. So the best thing about these is they cycle well with the blank and double game week. So Leno is going to blank Game Week 28. That gives him another game where he's got to make that up at some point. That gives him a double game week when McCarthy will have a single game week at some point. McCarthy's guaranteed to play, Southampton are guaranteed to play Game Week 34, unless something crazy happens like weather, but that's assuming McCarthy can hold a spot. He did make a mistake last game week. He shouldn't really concede that goal, but hopefully he can hold a spot until Game Week 34. That's going to be very important. If not, I'll have to get in some other goalkeeper for that time, and it'll be a waste of a transfer, really. But he's 4.4, so I think he's worth the risk, and I don't really see him losing his spot. He's held it for a while now. Also, they rotate well in general besides the double game weeks, but game weeks 33 and 35 will be a little bit of a struggle. Hopefully one of those will be a double game week for Leno or maybe McCarthy. Both of these goalkeepers will be blinking in game week 31 most likely, or they at least have a chance to. Pope instead of Leno is an option, but both won't blank in game week 34. Like Pope and McCarthy won't blank 34, so I feel like I should have one of them blank. That way I get that double game week at some other point in the season. Arsenal have conceded multiple goals only once in the past 6 game weeks, a significant improvement defensively under Arteta. Now that their fixtures improve as well, we could see a lot of clean sheets, and that's what I'm hoping for. So let's talk about these defenders. I'm really interested in these defenders, and I'll get to potentially playing 4 or 5 at the back, and it sounds weird because I know at the beginning of the season 5 at the back was hyped up. It didn't really work out. But I think if you pick the right defenders at this point, it could work out, and it's something I'm really considering. I just can't quite make myself do it yet, but I think it may be the way to go. Either way, I'm going to have 5 defenders that I pretty much could play in a game week over this next, let's say, 4 or 5 game weeks. So Trent Alexander-Arnold, pretty nailed on. I'm not really going to get rid of him. Had him since the start of the season, never got rid of him. Virgil van Dijk, sure I could go with Robertson instead, but I'm sticking with Van Dijk over Robertson. I did that for a reason, and Van Dijk has looked to have a little more goal threat recently than Robertson, and he's a little cheaper, and he's just guaranteed to play with all this rotation coming up, potential rotation with Champions League. So who knows what I just like the fact that he's guaranteed to play 90 minutes every time for Liverpool. Double Liverpool defense is something I could change from because I see so many other good defensive options. I could go cheaper there, but the only problem is, in order to get that other Liverpool player, I'd probably have to get Mane, and it's so much more money than the other midfielders that I can't. It's not just a straight swap. It's not like I can go from Virgil van Dijk to Bellerin or somebody and then go with that same money, go from Grealish to Mane, because it's just so much more. So that's why I'm sticking with these guys. They're trustworthy, and you know what you're going to get from the Liverpool defenders. Willy Bolly's pretty much nailed into my team. Going to have him. I like him more than Saiss a little bit just because the goal threat is there a little more, and I just think he's a better defender in general, which makes him more nailed on as long as he doesn't get re-injured. I talked about it last video. Norwich have great fixtures. They look good defensively. They're actually playing right now as I record this, so you know this sort of will factor into my decision making. Obviously, Bali, Saiss, or Doherty could all get hurt, but these are three players I'm looking at right now. I have Saiss, and he's on my bench right now, but he's somebody that I could potentially start. That's one of my decisions, though. Do I go with Saiss or Doherty? Is it worth the extra money to get Doherty? Do I downgrade like Grealish to like Aaron Moy just so I can upgrade that one player? That's something that I'm considering, because then Doherty becomes like an every week starter for me, because you know I can't, if you have Doherty, if you spend extra money for him, you should probably be playing him every week. I just don't really think he's worth 6.1. If he was like 5.5, like if he was the same as Van Aanholt, I'd probably take him over Van Aanholt. But speaking of Van Aanholt, so I like Van Aanholt attacking. Okay, so he was getting in good positions. He loves to get forward. He was getting in the box a lot, and he was, you know, he had some attempted assists, and he's taken like 2 shots the past 2 games. So that's good. And I just think it's the end of the season where he typically does well. I was thinking back to it, and I'm trying to think, like, for example, he's well known for doing well against teams that are already relegated. So I look at that and I think, well, he does well in low pressure situations. So maybe once Crystal Palace are like already safe, he feels more free, plays with less anxiety, and maybe he just plays better in general. And especially from a defender standpoint, like he feels more comfortable taking the shot and being an attacking minded wing back. So maybe that's a thing with him, just the comfortability of knowing that, okay, we're safe now I can be a little more creative. Maybe that's a thing. I'll have to go back and look at it, but considering that he's taking more shots now, without that, because Crystal Palace haven't been the best. There's no doubt about it. Crystal Palace's form has been bad, but their fixtures are so good. So if you combine that with any other psychological aspect that's good, along with Van Aanholt, who can just pop up with goals anyway, I think that he's just a differential that could be really good. But his fixtures are great, and he's only 5.5. I don't know if that's a lot. I don't know if that's too much. But there are other options out there, which is why I'm not completely sold on Van Aanholt or Saiss. There's Doherty. There's a Burnley defender. There's Charlie Taylor, I believe he's 4.2 million. That could be potentially good. Again, they're guaranteed game week 34, so that's nice. There's Stevens, and there's Stevens, the 2 Stevens, the Southampton one and the Sheffield United one. Sheffield United one gets a lot of, or he looks like he may get attacking returns in the future. The problem I have with Sheffield United is, well, they blink in game week 28. And obviously I can plan around that because I have my wild card. But so 27 they have a good matchup, and then right after the blank they have like 1 or 2 good matchups. But after that it's pretty bad for a while. So I think this gives me ability to plan longer term, and given that I sort of need to because of like the blank and double game weeks, I don't really think a Sheffield United defender sort of works into my plans. Because like a lot of defenders that I'm getting now that are good long term, like for example Wolves and even Van Aanholt, and obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold and Van Dijk. So those are 2 guaranteed that are good long term. And then the Wolves, I'm looking at those as 2 more. And then Van Aanholt, who knows what happens. So I don't really need a short-term option because Wolves have good fixtures now. Liverpool I'm going to play every week. And obviously Van Aanholt has good fixtures now. And I mean, I could switch out Van Aanholt for somebody like Stevens, but I'd probably going to have one defender on the bench anyway. And I already feel like I have too much on the bench with Saiss. Not that he costs too much, but he's just on such a good defense, and he's pretty much guaranteed a starting role at this point. So I don't know. I think if I was going to play like 5 at the back or 4 at the back consistently, I'm going to play 4 at the back, I think. But if I was going to play 5 at the back consistently, as Diego Jota just scores his 2nd goal of the game for Europa League, still not considering him, to be honest. I think I would go like Doherty. I would go all the way up to Doherty, and I would like downgrade somebody in the midfield. That way, I would just feel more comfortable playing 5 at the back. I just don't think Sheffield United are quite trustworthy enough. And Stevens, yeah, he's looked good going forward, but he just hasn't quite produced the points. He's produced the underlying statistics, but that's it. Bellerin, I'm interested in. The blank game week I can plan around. That sets him up for a potential game week 29 where he's got 2 games. In case you haven't heard, there's a chance that there's a double game week 29 with Man City and Arsenal, or maybe Man City and some other team. But Bellerin, again, good option, decent going forward. I've already talked about how Arsenal, could potentially get more clean sheets because of Arteta, and now they've got the swing of fixtures. And I think Bellerin's really the only Arsenal defender or player in general that I would trust besides Leno and Aubameyang, maybe Pepe. But in terms of defenders, who else would you get? What's his name? Saka isn't even listed as a defender, but he's playing left back. And then Luiz costs way too much. Socrates and Mustafi get rotated, so you're left with Bellerin. But I think all of these defensive options are sort of worth getting. And I feel like I could keep talking about these for a long time, and I don't think I can make a clear decision. But I think that just because of Van Aanholt being proven... Oh, wait, one more thing I almost forgot to mention. I'm worried about Doherty. If you remember the start of the season, Doherty sort of got rotated a little bit. He'd only play 45 minutes in the first couple of games. I don't even remember. But I'm sort of worried about that because Wolves have Europa League. One thing I like about Van Aanholt is Crystal Palace don't have Europa League. They're not playing in any other competitions, really. So it's just all EPL, and he gets a chance to worry about that. That is the only thing I'm worried about with the Wolves triple up. But right now, that's why I think Van Aanholt's more of a safe option. I have two Wolves defenders with a third Wolves defender or just a non-Wolves defender in there. I get the chance to trust my two Liverpool players and somebody else if the Wolves situation goes wrong. So I'm struggling to find options that I love in midfield. Besides Salah and KDB, it's sort of, after that, it gets a little bit weird because obviously Mane, I don't have the money or the Liverpool slot for him really. He could be worth the money, but just in terms of the Liverpool slot, I don't know. Or I don't know. Maybe he's not even worth the money. It's just a tough one. If I get him, then I would have to sacrifice so much. But the thing is, Grealish has bad fixtures, and he blanks 28. But I'm going to keep him for game week 27 because they play Southampton. And he's just been so good. Well, I say that. I may not keep him, but I'll get to that in a second. Martial, not the biggest fan of him. So Bruno Fernandes should help his involvement a little bit, but if you watch last game, for example, Martial didn't get any chances. He got his best chance was the chance he scored, and I would have never expected him to score that really. I was really surprised when he went in. It was a great goal, and he actually just scored in the Europa League earlier. So he has confidence going into it. I'm not the biggest fan of getting rid of somebody before they have a good home matchup. So I'm just going to keep it simple, have some value tied up, and my midfield is what I'm waiting and seeing, because really I feel I can hold this team for a while without making transfers, assuming nothing crazy happens. That's a risk I'm willing to take. And then Jorginho's on the bench. Takes penalties. I can put him in game week 28 if I have to. Depends on what my plan. But right now I have him in because he's not too nailed on. But if he does play, he's been even getting a high amount of expected assists, which is nice. But obviously he's on penalties, and his form's actually pretty good if you sort the midfielders by form. He's just getting the FPL returns, which is the most important predictor of future points is past points recently. So I'm a fan of his price. There's not many great options, and even if he doesn't play, okay, he gets 1 point. That's 1 point less than somebody like Aaron Moy will get, because they'll probably put him on a sub if he doesn't play. But like I said, I have depth, so I'm willing to take the risk of somebody that's maybe not nailed on just due to rotation or whatever. But what I was going to say is I could go basically with the 4-3-3. I could just have Salah, KDB, and then one other midfielder, and then I could have two bench midfielders like Jorginho and Aaron Moy or some random Norwich midfielder. But what I could do is I could downgrade Grealish to a 4.5 and then Martial up to Pepe. Now, Pepe is an interesting one. He didn't start today in Europa League, which is nice for his FPL value. He costs way too much. I don't think he's worth 9.1. If he was 8 million, I think I'd get him. But just the extra million onto his value or so is making it weird for me. He's a potential penalty taker, but I don't think he's the penalty taker. It's really Aubameyang. But he's got great fixtures. Everton at home. Everton have been conceding a decent amount, so right away decent. And then he blanks. I can plan around the blank. I can get a cheap player with a good fixture for game of 28. I think that'd be worth playing around if I think Pepe is a good option. And then after that, Arsenal have really good fixtures, as I mentioned, and that would give me a double up on Arsenal. Sort of a nice. Neither player is really a differential on their own. I guess Pepe is, but I don't trust Pepe's quality. So this is really testing my ability to choose fixtures over form. Yes, he did well against Newcastle, but I think Newcastle looked really bad that game. So that's the one thing I have to decide. Was that Arsenal versus Newcastle result the case of Arsenal being really good or Newcastle being really bad? And I think I can sort of put it down to Newcastle being bad, but at the same time, it's like they're about to play other teams that I can put down to be really bad as well, like with these good fixtures. So the thing with Pepe is he gets a lot of chances a lot of times and he just doesn't finish. So I don't even know if I want to look at his expected goals. I need to see more confidence in finishing. So it's a weird one. I would hate to pay 9.1 for a player when I watch him. I'm like, that player's nowhere near 9.1, but just because of the lack of options in midfield, it might be worth it, and that's weird. But I think for now, I'm going to play it safe and keep Martial before the blank. I don't really see the need for it, but if Pepe looks good against Everton, then I might save up a free transfer into blank, and then right after the blank, bring Pepe in. So that's one of my plans, and I hate to play in transfers when I'm on a wild card, but I think it's worth it because Pepe, he hasn't really done anything all season, and I'm not willing to, he's had 2 good games. I just can't. He's 9.1. I just can't bring him. I don't think it's worth it. I think I'd probably rather spend up in defense at the moment, but that's something I'm really high considering. He's number 1 in terms of on my list I have here of midfielders that I don't have that I'm thinking about. Number 2 on the list is Perez, or Jose Perez. Leicester have good fixtures coming up. Perez, he's been really more involved in getting goals or trying to produce goals at least than Jamie Vardy. So the issue with Perez is that he gets subbed off way too early, and I just don't know if he's guaranteed to start. I don't know how good of a quality he is. He just hasn't scored that many points this season. Okay, let me take that back. He's only scored points in a couple games this season, and considering my bench rotations, I wouldn't know when to play him and when to not play him considering my depth, so I don't know how he fits into the team. James Ward-Prowse is another option. I just don't see myself ever starting him in this team that I have unless there was some blank gaming situation. So I don't know what to do. I don't think I'm going to get either one of them because they would just be too much. I may go with the cheap option and go 4-3-3. Maybe I could do something to get Mane. There are a handful of good options at forward. Let me just start off by one option that I'm tempted to, which is going without a premium, getting in Shane Long, maybe as a bench player, but against this Aston Villa, I could play him this next week. But maybe that allows me to get in Mane, and then I go with a 4-3-3, and I use the value in defense to fund my Mane move, and then obviously Shane Long on the bench and Jorginho on the bench. I had to find a way to do that, but these are just ideas, and I think value in defense is something you should use. I think a 4-3-3 or 4-4-2 is worth it right now, maybe, because Jimenez and Ings are the forwards that I trust at the moment. The only ones I trust. Jimenez just from quality of chances, and Ings through just his finishing form right now. So Vardy, if there was a better midfield or attacking option, it would be so much easier. If Pepe or Vardy was just doing well right now, because then I could choose between one of the two, because they're about the same price. But I need to decide on Vardy, because if I go Vardy, if I go down a long, then I can get Pepe. It changes everything. But right now I'm going Vardy simply because he's done so well this season, and Leicester don't have anything else to worry about. Like I said, about Europa League or anything else. They're just focused on the Premier League. They should be really wanting this Champions League spot. And also, Leicester is still scoring some goals. Yeah, they didn't score against Wolves, but I expect that again. I'm getting Wolves to finish because I think the Wolves defense is good. So to be consistent with that, or not to be consistent with that, that's just legitimately how I feel about it. I don't really blame Vardy or Leicester for not scoring against Wolves. I think that's a great defense. So I'm writing that game off as not their fault, pretty much. Yes, they're not Liverpool level who can score on anybody, and he does cost a lot. But I think Vardy can score in this great run of fixtures. Let's look at their fixtures right now. So pretty soon, after this Man City game, which I may bench Vardy for, they play Norwich, Aston Villa, Watford, Brighton, Everton, Crystal Palace. And then after that, you get Arsenal and Bournemouth. But that's such a long run of fixtures. You would think that they get hyped up looking at that run of fixtures. And all they got to focus on is Premier League. I don't know. One would think that Vardy, once he gets one goal against that, he gets his confidence back, and he starts finishing the chances that he was scoring in the past, where everybody's like, oh, he's outperforming his expected goals. He's finishing way too many chances. Maybe he gets on a run like that again in these easy fixtures where all he has to focus on is the Premier League, and he's got to go for top scorer. I don't know. I think it fits him, and given the value I have tied up in him, it just takes a little bit extra more. That's really good grammar right there for me to get rid of him. This is a long video at this point, so I apologize, but let me know what you think about Vardy, because I can't decide if I'm just too biased for him. Should I get Vardy? If I got rid of Vardy, I could get somebody. I would go just maybe Aubameyang's an option. Let's not confuse this anyway. Aubameyang is an option, but I think I would probably go downgrade, and then get Pepe, and then that would allow me to spread a little bit of funds somewhere else. So I got some decisions to make, but I'm going to say the players that are locked in are Trent, Van Dijk, Bali, maybe Van Aanholt, Saiz or Doherty. Two Wolves defenders is pretty much locked in for me. Salah, KDB are locked in. None of the other midfielders are. Maybe I guess Jorginho, but just a bench option. Jimenez and Ings are locked in. So those are locked in. And my goalkeepers are, what's his name? McCarthy's definitely locked in. Leno, most likely. So I do have some decisions to make there. But I just wanted to, hopefully, if anything, you agree with me about there's value in defense. So what does that mean? It's a good chance to really get the cheap option. So Saiz, for example, you can make the most of that. That's only 4.4 million. You can get Stevens or a Burnley defender if you want. If you really wanted to, if there was good premium options in attack right now, can you imagine what we could do with this good value in defense coming up over this next stretch with some good fixtures like with Wolves? Because then that money would actually be useful. But the problem is, I see these cheap options and I'm like, well, let me still spend money on defense because there's people like Van Aanholt who I think will do well, and obviously Trent and Van Dijk. So I feel like this is just such a waste in terms of the value that defenders are giving us right now, because I don't see where to spend the money out. Obviously, with Son being hurt, that was sort of one of my plans when I wildcarded, to maybe go with him. So that's sort of unfortunate, but that's the reason why I've got Vardy right now. I just wanted to say all that, just say that's why I've got Vardy right now, because either way, I can always exchange a cheap defender for another cheap defender that's probably doing well right now. Either whether it's a Burnley, a Southampton, or Wolves, or whatever team that has decent options at that price range that will probably continue to start, and one of those teams will at least be doing well. So that's probably just a transfer if that goes wrong. But if I have Vardy and he goes wrong, again, that's just like a transfer. So if I can maybe make two if I want to go up to Aubameyang, and that's something that could easily happen, or I could always just go down to Shane Long and then upgrade somewhere else. So, but if I miss out on Vardy, so if I go Shane Long right now and I switch like a 4-4-2 type of thing, then it'd be harder to get Vardy back. I'd have to be paying more money, and I'd also be questioning when to get him back, because if he scores against Man City at home, is that representative of how they're going to play against Norwich? I mean, Jota just got a hat trick. Wow. Because Man City and Norwich play very different. Norwich will probably be desperate to defend against Leicester, while Man City is a completely different game. I mean, we saw Vardy scoring against Man City last time. It's more of a counterattacking game. As we've seen recently, like last game, Vardy didn't really get any chances, even though Leicester had some chances, and it's like, it's just too much. It's too much. So I'm questioning whether I should have wildcarded, but I think it'll be okay. And yeah, in general, those are my debates. Premium striker or not, Grealish or Martial or not. I could turn that into Pepe if I wanted to. Grealish in general, do I just downgrade Grealish and then upgrade Saiz to Doherty? I could do that because Grealish has terrible matchups. Am I ever going to start him in this team? Maybe not, besides this next game week. So maybe I go ahead and get rid of Grealish early. Maybe I'm that proactive, but I'll have to decide. Hopefully, if you're wildcarding this time soon, I would advise going Wolves defense. That's probably like the most nailed-on thing that I really want to change to, which is one reason why I wildcard. So hopefully Wolves defense works out for me. I think Bali and Doherty are good attacking defensive options. But this is the video for now. I will update you on Twitter on what I decide to do. I think there's a lot of good options out there, and the main takeaway from this, I want to say, you can, at this point in the season, you can pretty much look at the rest of the fixtures and determine who you're going to start for the rest of the season. So I remember last season, Ryan Fraser had bad matchups for like, I don't know, 9 weeks in a row. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to play him for any of these weeks, but I can wildcard where my team is good enough where I don't have to play this cheap midfielder for all these weeks. But then when his fixtures finally get good again, I can play him in just like these final couple weeks, and it worked out for me pretty well. So, but when you wildcard, it's really important to take advantage of the cheap options that you get. So, for example, Saiz, I can use that 4.4 million and I can play him in a bunch of games as if he's a valuable player. And then that allows me to, maybe somebody like Grealish, when he plays Newcastle, I can just insert him in there. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting the best of, oh, I have this great attacking player against this easy matchup. But then when he has bad matchups, or whenever, just the rotation about getting the cheap players involved into your team when they have the good matchups and when you think they'll get points, because you don't want that cheap player in bad matchups. That's typically not good. But you can really once you can figure out the rest of the season, or at least I think I could figure out the rest of the season, I don't see the point in wildcarding. So that's what I'm saying about, maybe even keeping Grealish and Martial. Like, yes, the matchups aren't the best, but and maybe I should wait longer. People say, oh, well, you don't even know what to do with this, so maybe you should wait longer to wildcard. But really, what am I waiting for? I don't know. Anyway, this is the video. I will see you next time. Hopefully you have a good game week, unless you have players I don't have. And then I hope you have a bad game week. I'll see you next time. If you like the content, if you stayed this long through me rambling, I went off script, yeah. But I would consider subscribing if I was you. So yeah, I'll see you next time though. I've said that about 3 times now. Bye.